What is going on, guys? It's Modded Dwarfy here. Welcome back to another PS4 and PS5 Jailbreak news updates. So unfortunately, I have not been able to record videos over the past couple of days, so I'm a bit late to the party on this news. However, I'm going to cover it anyway here because it is fairly significant. So we do have a talk from Specter happening at this year's Hardwear conference relating to the PS5. It's titled Next Gen Exploitation Exploring the PS5 Security Landscape. So before this was actually announced, there was a teaser screenshot released by Hardwear.io on Twitter, which seems to show some code relating to the PS5 Hypervisor. And we know this because there is a function called HV_VM exit handler, HV obviously standing for Hypervisor. And further down here, we have this enum that says SCE_HV_VM call_ID. So obviously SCE, the SCE prefix at the start stands for Sony Computer Entertainment. It's pretty common to see that prefix on things like, the PS4 SDK, on module names and on function names and stuff like that. You'll see that SCE at the beginning, SCE_system, SCE_modules. So Sony Computer Entertainment. So that does show that this is most likely for the PS5. So a lot of people got very hyped up about this when they first saw this because obviously the Flow at last year's Hardwear conference did a talk where he basically covered the Blu-ray drive exploit that he discovered for the PS5 and chained that with a kernel exploit that at the time was not actually released, that kernel exploit. However, later on it did get disclosed, and that's basically resulted in the partial jailbreaks that we have for the PS5 up till now, up to 4.51, the Specter's implementation with the WebKit, John Tornblum's, which basically carries over the Flow's implementation with the Blu-ray drive, as well as, of course, now we have Slayer-Scorvy's WebKit implementation as well. So we have all three of those, and that all basically started from the Flow's Hardwear.io talk. That's when we first found out about it. Because of that history with the Hardwear conference, as well as this leaked screenshot, a lot of people got very, very excited about this, thinking that there's going to be some kind of new hypervisor exploit unveiled at this talk. Now, unfortunately, I don't mean to rain on your parade if you haven't already seen this, but Specter did come out and clarify things with an update here. He said, just to clarify, I will not be dropping new exploits or bugs. It's mostly a reversing focus talk and talks about exploitation techniques and mitigations on a whole. So yeah, unfortunately, it's not going to be some kind of hypervisor exploit that's going to be unveiled here at this talk. So what the talk is actually about, if we head here to the actual website for Hardwear.io for Specter. So it does say here it's going to be looking at things like the supervisor mode access prevention, supervisor mode execution protection, and kernel control flow integrity, as well as execute only memory. And furthermore, we'll investigate the internal workings of the PS5's hypervisor and analyze its role in safeguarding the system against high privileged attackers. We'll also talk about how some of these mitigations can be worked around and highlight some avenues and ideas for the future. So it could still be a very interesting talk. It could certainly give us an idea on where these hackers like Specter have gotten, how far they've gotten in exploiting the hypervisor, and what kind of, things are kind of holding them back, and what kind of mitigations they can use to bypass some of these security measures. So it could definitely be an interesting talk. I'm definitely excited to see this when it comes out. Now, it is happening on the 3rd of June, 2023, of course, and it does start at 2 o'clock to 2:30, so it's a half an hour long talk. But it doesn't really matter because we're not going to be able to see it when it actually happens. If this is anything like the Flow's talk, then they don't actually live stream these conferences. Instead, what they do is they pre-record the talks and then they'll upload them to the Hardwear YouTube channel probably about a week to 10 days after the actual talk has happened. So we can probably expect to see this round about the 10th to the 13th of June, probably round about there. So that's what's going on there on the PS5. I have a couple of updates for the PS4 relating to some goldhen stuff. So we do have some plugin updates here for the goldhen plugins repository. So from Illusion has come out. He's released a fix for the game patch plugin where masks were not working unless it was separated by spaces. We also, if we go further down, there was another update a few days ago that adds a 30 FPS patch, so that you can basically force games to run at 30 FPS. And this is surprisingly needed these days because a lot of these kind of cross-gen games that are obviously made for kind of PS5 first, and then there's like a downgraded PS4 version. A lot of the time that PS4 version doesn't really get the attention that it deserves. And so a lot of these games for some reason have a unlocked frame rate when they really shouldn't have an unlocked frame rate, because it causes a really inconsistent experience, because the frame rate is wildly fluctuating all the time and there's inconsistent frame pacing. RE4 Remake is a perfect example of this, where the frame rate is unlocked on all of the different modes, the performance mode and the resolution mode, even though the resolution mode can barely go above 30 FPS anyway, and the performance mode is just all over the place with wild frame rate fluctuations. Same with the base PS4. So yeah, generally it's not great. So having a 30 FPS patch is pretty useful. Now obviously you do have 30 FPS patches that are for specific games and game versions. However, the problem with that is that, of course, they're using static offsets. So every time a game gets a new game update, then the patch is not going to work with that game update, because the offsets will change with the new game updates. And then the developers have to go and port the patch over to the newer game update. As it says here, this will allow for version agnostic patching for games that is being continuously updated. So what they're doing, instead of going to like a static offset, is that they are searching for a pattern of bytes. And then using that pattern of bytes, they can find the code for the frame rate in whatever game update the game is currently on. They'll be able to then patch it with the necessary code to lock it to 30 FPS. And then that should work for future game updates as well. So that way they don't have to like create specific patches for each game update. They can just use this one pattern search to work with all game updates to apply the 30 FPS patch. Now it does say that some games may use different compiler settings or significant code changes, and may require authors to add patterns for new versions of a given game. So yeah, obviously certain games, the pattern may be different, and therefore that'll have to be added by those developers so that we can get support for the majority of PS4 games that are out there that would require a patch like this. So anyway, pretty useful stuff right there. The 30 FPS patch is now available in the goldhen plugins. You can just download the latest version here to get all of the plugins included. And obviously I have a tutorial showing you how to install these plugins. I'll leave it in the cards and down in the video description. So next we have another update from Illusion about the goldhen cheats manager getting a little update in the next release. So this version's not out yet at the time of recording, but as you can see here, it is going to allow you to install your cheats and your patches from the internal hard drive and from the USB drive. So if you have patches, if you have the zip file for the patches or the cheats, and you copy them to your hard drive, or you put them on a USB, if you're not connecting to the internet and you want a way to actually install these patches and cheats without being connected to the internet, then you can of course copy them over to your hard drive via FTP or to a USB drive and install them that way. As you can see here, you can update cheats from the USB, you can update the patches from the USB and for the hard drive as well. And of course, as usual, you can still update from the GitHub page as well for the patches and for the cheats. So that's what we've got there for the PS4 as well. So just a little update there. Hope you guys enjoyed this video or found the information useful. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe, and I'll hopefully see you guys in the next one.